Good morning, everyone. Let's continue Buddha's liberation path. Remember last time I shared with everyone, once the Buddha escaped from the north gate of the palace, he saw there's one monk, and his appearances and his energy attract his attention. So when he returned back to the palace, he think of this monk, and he feel this possibly is something he has always looking for, liberation path. So he decided to return to his room, and he saw his wife. She sleep peacefully, holding the baby, his son, Rohiroro. And he think, even though they were all beautiful, the child, the baby is still so cute. This is all impermanence. Nothing can keep forever. So he decided to seek his liberation path. So in this middle of the night, he left palace and riding a horse. Immediately one of the attendants followed him. Once they go outside of the royal palace, Prince decide to do a short break and a short meditation under the tree outside of the palace. In next day of the morning, the queen and the king discover Prince Siddhartha disappeared from the palace. They all very worried and immediately follow him to outside of the palace. And the queen and king saw Prince was doing a short meditation under the tree in the rural area. But the queen discovered all the animals just actually get close to the prince, try to protect him. And king even discovered the tree branches bend and cover the sun for his son, Prince. So by seeing the trees, the animal showing this loving attitude to their son, so king feel maybe his son make a decision can make himself happy and also make other sentient beings happy. So the king approached the prince and tell him, "My son, I saw even the tree cover the shadow for you. I'm sure inside of your heart must be have a strong love for all the beings. So I agree you to seeking your self-liberation path. But promise me, once you attain your enlightenment, you need to come back to palace and deliver teaching to us." Once the queen and king agree Prince to go on his own way, Prince Siddhartha continued his travel by himself with the follower attendants. He walked a long way by his bare feet, and in one middle of the night, he suddenly asked the attendant to give him a scissor. So Prince losing his hair and reflecting the moonlight from the river, he talked to himself. He said, "You are no longer a prince for the country anymore. You will be the awakened one. So now you need to cut off your hair to seeking self-liberation path." Once he said that, and using the scissor to cut his hair, and not only that, the goddess from the heaven immediately delivered to Prince a robe, and he continued his path of seeking liberation. He kept walking and seeking for a place where he can practice. And he decided to settle himself near the river. There's a small forest and there's a big tree near the river. Once he close to this river, he feel he want to meditate here. So he sit under this tree and he decide to practice a starving cultivation practice. So all attendants close to him, just as Prince, do not make himself starving the body, because there is not going to make anything change even though Prince practice starving. Then Prince Siddhartha still decide to practice the starving cultivation practice. So he decide only eat 1 grain of rice and a little bit water to do his starving practice. And he practiced this not only for 1 day, not for 1 week, not even for 1 month. He continued to do this practice for 6 years of starving cultivation practice. And then years after, his body become extremely skinny, only have the skin and bone. There is no muscle at all. And he almost died because this is starving practice. And just in that day, there is one young girl, and she's a person sheep, a group of sheep close to a river. Immediately this young girl saw this Prince Siddhartha. He's so skinny, almost fall apart. So she get close to him and offer a bowl of milk and feeding him. Once Prince drink this milk, immediately his body recover and become healthier, and he is able to walk and talk. Cultivation cannot be starving yourself like that. If you do not have a physical body, how can you practice and attain the enlightenment? So once the prince drink this milk, and all the attendants actually already become his disciple, saw him actually giving up starving practice. They left Prince and seeking their own way. So Prince Siddhartha still continued his seeking for self-liberation. So he continued to walking along the river and seeking for a good place to continue his practice. Of course, we all know Buddha enlightened as the law of Buddha through a lot of challenge, not only on the physical part and also for the mentally part. The devil also challenged him appear as several beautiful women to attract Prince to giving up on self-liberation path. But Prince still insists his own practice to seeking for liberation. And at the end, the Buddha finally enlightened as the law of Buddha under a Bodhi tree in old ancient time of India. So once the Buddha attained his enlightenment, he began to deliver all the teaching to those people he encountered. So those attendants, remember I said earlier, those attendants once saw Prince enlightened as the law of Buddha. They return and reunion with him and seeking for more teaching from Buddha. And once Buddha attained his enlightenment, the first teaching he delivered is the Four Noble Truths. Is the Buddha first time of turning the Dharma wheel. So the first group of his disciples is those attendants follow him. So that's the beginning of Buddha's journey of spreading the Buddha Dharma in all ancient time of India. And not only Buddha spread the Buddha Dharma to his students, also he traveled to different villages, different regions of the country to spread his teaching. Not only the rich people invite him to give the teaching to them, Also, one of the very famous story is he accept one of his disciple, and his job is the lowest class in the old ancient time of India. He is a worker to swiping all the people's dirt. Buddha still accepting him. Also, he returned back to the royal palace to deliver the teaching to his parents and to his wife and to his son. So that's a brief journey of the Buddha liberation at the final turn of life. As I already shared with everyone earlier, Buddha is able to enlighten as a law of Buddha Sakyamuni. It's not happen like a magic. It's not only happen in one turn of life. He make a sincere vow from long time ago previous life. And he never gave up. He consistently seeking for this self-liberation path, and he actually practiced that. And not only practice that, he overcome challenge as well. So how we can learn from the Buddha? Actually, the easy way is we need to learn from his attitude. Is never give up, always seeking for the truth, always seeking for our inner side, seeking for self-liberation path. And the Buddha already told all of us, all 6 realms of sentient beings, including you, including me, including the animal in our garden, including those sentient beings we do not see, or those enemies we hate. All 6 realms of sentient beings, they all have the Buddha nature within. This Buddha nature within ourselves, we need to polish it. We need to awaken it. We need to self-realize it. We need to self-liberate it. If we can self-awaken, we can self-practice, we can walk on this liberation path. Buddha already told us, all of us can attain our own enlightenment. How to start with this liberation path? The key is liberation. How to self-liberate it? We need to free of our attachment. Free of our attachment from our body, physically body enjoyment. We need to free of our self-attachment from the power, our social status we are attached to. We need to set our self-attachment free like a Buddha. He is able to escape himself from royal palace and to seek his liberation path and not giving up life after life. I hope my short sharing of self-liberation path of the Buddha can give you some encouraging word and also can give you some light, which we also can attain our inner side of Buddhahood one day if we begin our self-liberation path and practice. I hope next time I'll have you to join me again for future Buddha story. Thank you.